That's right, it's that time again, sort of. Even though there's no real schedule for this, this is freaking anime and SENSEI Pong Video Game Book Club. So this is hopefully a mini pod. Yeah, it's hopefully a mini pod. I don't know, just kind of a spin-off thing, but I did promise a mini pod of some sort, kind of trying to quickly throw in the stuff if I had time to do a Pongtoberfest special mini pod, which I haven't completely put together. I don't know, man. I hope it's something special. So yeah, today's roster, as you can probably guess, freaking anime. Well, this is that one anime episode, and I'm calling it freaking anime 1 because if I do another spin-off, this gets like a good response, you know. Maybe I'll do another one. We'll see. I don't know. But yeah, I've been, just like last time, I've been watching. I've been watching a lot of popular anime. So why? I don't know. I've just been in that mood. I don't know. I've been in a weird mood recently, and I don't know. Just maybe I need a break or something, and maybe I'm just like unconsciously forcing myself to take that break. I think that's what I'm trying to say. I don't know. Welcome to the mini pod. I'm your host, Sensei Pong. So, that's about it. Things to look forward to in this show. Yes, we will be covering the Video Game Book Club games, which included Paladins, Splatterhouse 3, and 20XX this time. And yeah, they're all relatively short games, but I didn't have much time to play. But a couple of the games I definitely had more time to play than the others. But regardless of that, hopefully next Video Game Book Club will be actually pretty good because I've got a fun idea. So stay tuned for that. A little bit of news on the visual novel, interactive fiction, and text adventure month for some LPs that you can look forward to and Video Game Book Club games that you can look forward to. And for some reason, visual novels are really easy to just kind of blast through for me. Like, yeah, when I let's play them, I take my time because I'm trying to like read it all and like in a good narrative manner, like trying to do voices, trying to do this and that, throwing my 2 cents here and there, you know, add a little bit more flavor than just what the visual novel is, regardless of how good the visual novel is, you know, and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, things on that. In terms of news, I'm not going to be covering that much news. It's kind of a heavy news week for a whole bunch of things, so I figured, okay, well, you know, you don't want to hear me like just ramble on about like this and that and kind of copycat other video game podcasts out there, just basically sputtering off what I think about whatever this and that, you know. But there is one thing that is related to video games that I think does need to be updated, and it's a Toys R Us thing. So look forward to that if you're curious about that. And then after all that, we'll go into the freaking anime segment and talk about what I've been watching and binge watching. Because oh boy, I've binge watched quite a bit. So, get ready for that. Hopefully I can remember them all. And then, oh boy, this list is stupid long. I've got notable releases. Mostly Switch releases, some 3DS releases, and some PC releases. And one PS4 title that I'm excited for. But since I don't own a PS4, I don't really care. I'll probably get it on something else. Because it's a multi-thingy release. It's not a exclusive. And finally, to wrap it all up, I've got fun fact of the day. That's if we have time. Okay, so like the reason why there's such a huge list of Switch releases was this is actually my second recording, and I messed up the recording and got corrupted, blah blah. Also, even then, remembering back, I don't feel like it was that good of a recording, so I'm not too sad. But it was basically a Switch edition thing. So yeah, that's why there was a whole bunch of Switch news on this one. Switch releases, because I was trying to concentrate on that. I actually threw in a whole bunch, not a whole bunch, but 5 3DS games that are coming up soon on this list just because I was just like way too Switch heavy. I was like, ugh. And I threw in a couple PC games. One I totally forgot was coming out really, really freaking soon. And if you enjoy old school platformers, definitely the 3D platformers, you should stay tuned for that by the end of this episode. Hopefully this won't go past 45 minutes. No promises. So, notable things I've played. Like I said, I haven't really had much time to play much of anything. And when I have, I've been in like a weird kind of lazy mood where I just kind of want to watch something. I'm like craving story. I'm craving not so much gameplay, but like story. So maybe that's why I've been watching a lot of anime. Haven't really watched a bunch of Netflix, honestly. Like that's not anime, but I don't know. It's weird. It's I've been in a weird mood recently. Not it's not anything bad, but like these kind of like I've said this before in other podcasts, like other episodes where and maybe probably some let's plays too, but my tastes go up and down, up and down. So like, sometimes I'm like really into one thing and then like a few months later in a completely different zone, but I still love it all. I like mixing it up. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe I just needed a mix up, kind of like shake my internal soda bottle. I don't know. That creates a weird image. It's like there's a bottle of RC cola right in my tummy and be like blah blah blah. Blah. That's what's going down. Yeah. Oh, anywho, notable things I have played though. I did play the Switch demo for a Project Octopod, Octopod, not Octopod, Project Octopath Traveler on the Switch, which is the new Squeenix game coming out later this year. I don't think they have a set release date just yet, but I think the plan is that they release it before Christmas. So it makes sense. It's a high selling time. So expect it maybe in November, December, maybe January if they're late. I don't know. So with that, what did I think of the demo? So a lot of people have been like praising this demo for its art style and gameplay and all sorts of stuff. And I'm a huge fan of old school JRPGs, but honestly, the premise of it is awesome. Oh man, I can't remember the name. Muka told me about it, and for some reason I didn't write it, like type it out in my notes. But so apparently, like, if you don't know what Project Octopath Traveler is, what it is a JRPG in kind of like a 3D-ish world. So it's kind of like an old school like Final Fantasy or like Legends of Mana Tales kind of game. So it's got that isometric. Well, it's not truly isometric, but it's got that perspective of like a 3D kind of thing. You're like walking around, but it's still at its core a JRPG. So honestly, if you're not into JRPGs like the Mana series, Tales, Final Fantasy, Bravely Default, which this is the same team that developed Bravely Default. So if you liked Bravely Default on the 3DS, chances are you're gonna like this. Saga Frontier. That's what it was called. Saga Frontier. Anyways, the premise of this game is that it's got this giant, overarching, epic, grand JRPG story. Not anything like that's unexpected. Okay, you expect that. But the big kind of quirk about this one is that you have 8 different main characters you can play, and each character has their own separate storyline and separate adventure, but they all do interconnect and cross paths at some point, and you can join up with each other and make your own teams. Whether or not you're required to team up with everybody at some point, I'm not sure, because this demo only covered like the first beginning chapters of like two of the 8 characters. And I was like, oh man, this is actually a pretty cool idea, because I always like that idea of getting like different perspectives of the same story, kind of like what they did with Fire Emblem, the most recent one, Fire Emblem, blah blah blahs. What was that called? Fire Emblem Fates. Yeah, yeah. Yeah. Fire Emblem Fates. So you had kind of like a Pokemon really, kind of a Pokemon tactic here, but you had one game which was called Birthright and then the other one called Conquest. But the major story of the thing was that these two huge countries were at war with each other. Depending on which you chose, either Birthright or Conquest, you know, you have like Birthright is one of the countries and Conquest is the other one. And then there was another one called Fire Emblem Revelation. I don't want to give out any spoilers, but Fire Emblem Revelation, which I never played and covered a whole different part of the storyline. But like two very different perspectives, and I always like that kind of idea. I like these kind of things where it's like it for me personally, it creates a bigger, more expansive lore universe and makes it feel more real, makes it feel deeper. I don't know. It's kind of cool. I like it. It shows that they're really trying to think out like a storyline and the complexities of what's really going on in the story, whether it be political, whether it be social, whether it be character, whether it be just straight up plot or whatever's going on in that world. Just cool thing, a cool idea like that. Apparently, it's not the first time Squeenix has done something like this or some other game. Saga Frontier. I'm not sure if I ever played Saga Frontier. I don't think I ever have. I really don't think I have. Because my knowledge on like JRPGs is kind of loose. Like I know some of them really well, but some like there's some out there that you'd be surprised I'd never really played all the way through or never touched at all. Yeah, it's Squaresoft back in 1997 on the PlayStation. So if you like the idea of playing different characters from different perspectives with different storyline games in the same game, and you got a PS1 or you're a PS1 fan, she says it's really good. Go look up Saga Frontier. Muka says it's really good, and she's a JRPG fan, so blah 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 blah. So back onto Project Octopath. Yeah, so as you would expect, it's a turn-based RPG with HP and what they call SP abilities, which is basically kind of like a mana system for like special abilities and all that. I think it stands for special points. I have no idea. Overall, the gameplay itself, the core, what it is at its core, feels good, and I like this style. I like there's a little bit of strategy involved, but it's not too heavy. As long as you choose the right things to do at the right times, and resource manage your SP and all that, and your items, you should be pretty golden. It's not too heady or anything like gameplay wise, but it's still rewarding. It's nice to find random loot and be like, yay, that's cool. The one thing I had a problem with was the art direction, and which is gonna sound funny because a lot of people have been praising this like head over heels, just being like, oh my gosh, this is the most prettiest game in the world. Oh man, this is a cool idea. What it is you've got like a 3D rendered world with 2D sprites that look like an old school Final Fantasy, like Final Fantasy 5 or 6, on top of like some intense it's like visual effects and stuff to make it look real at the same time, kind of. But because of this, I felt it warmed up to me finally, like halfway through the Warriors first chapter, but honestly, it felt like I was playing with toys. It was like, because they're all just like little pixel guys in this almost like realistic world. It felt like I was playing with toys in a toy set. Like I'm running a little simulation, and it kind of took me out of it, honestly. But I can see why people love it. I can understand that. I'm not saying it's absolutely terrible, because once I hit that cave was amazing to look at. I was like, oh my gosh, this is beautiful. Just the effects that they used for the shadows, the feel, the music, the atmosphere, and everything of that cave was really good. Now, if you haven't played this, you don't know what I'm talking about. Don't worry about it. I'm trying to stay as vague as possible so I don't spoil it, because it is cool. I did like that point. Art-wise, it was really, really good, and I was like, okay, I could see where they're going with this. This could be cool. So, yeah, art direction kind of put me off for a second because of its like high 3D textures and like particle physics and all that, like particle graphics. I can't think of the word. Y'all know what I'm talking about if you know what I'm talking about. If you don't know what I'm talking about. And then throw on the 16-bit sprites and somewhat 16-bit textures here and there. And it's just like, that's what I thought. Dialogue-wise for the characters, because there's quite a bit of dialogue. It was pretty straightforward and contextual. Like in context, it's really good. It's good. It's not bad. The voice acting was pretty good. I did like that. The voice acting was fun. Definitely that little kid in the warrior story. I didn't really get to play the dancer story just yet. Only played a little bit, so haven't had time to really sit down with it. But either way, The voice acting in both are pretty good, and I liked it. That little kid was pretty golden. But what else do I have in my notes? Overall, I like the idea of the 8 different storylines. I think that's a great idea. It's a nice callback to old school JRPGs, and it really feels like an old school JRPG with modern gameplay sensibilities. So it's not going to be like, it doesn't seem like the kind of game that might be an absolute drag with like grinding if that's not something you're into. I personally like grinding in games, definitely. On some games it's just kind of a nice, relaxing thing. But some people hate that. So I don't. I feel like there might be grindy moments, but I don't think it's going to be as bad as like some of the older classics. Um, Now technically, in terms of like how the game runs and everything, I didn't see any like problems with like frame dips. But I'm not really the right person to ask for that because I don't really care unless it's like really bad, like it drops down to like 15 frames per second. And at that point, I'm just like, I can't do this. So that wasn't an issue. Technically, I think it runs absolutely fine. One thing I did notice was when I was playing it for longer than 30 minutes to about an hour and more at a time, there'd be some minor warmth on the battery for prolonged play. So it would be kind of similar to Breath of the Wild situation where it's like maybe it's using a lot of the computer resources mostly because of those graphics. Because like I said, even though there are 16-bit sprites, everything else, the world, the smoke, the shadowing, the whatever you have, all the crazy graphics that are going on in the background, it's not too much for the Switch to handle. It's just it's using its resources like effectively to its fuller potential. So it was warming up maybe just a little bit. It wasn't like anything. I felt like it was worrisome. So maybe not like a Breath of the Wild situation where it's like, where it does warm up after 4 hours, 3 hours of play in handheld mode. So with this in mind, and that whole thing about bending switches, I looked into it. I haven't had a problem with my Switch bending at all. Apparently, what's actually going on is that it happens when the Switch is in docked mode. So just so you know, not so much in handheld, but there's not enough air circulation going on in the Switch for it to cool down properly. So when you're playing in docked mode for like long periods of time, now at this point you're not worried about the battery life because you're straight in the dock and it's docked. It's getting its power from the wall. So you play Breath of the Wild for like 6-8 hours at a time, it's going to heat up, and with that the Switch is literally slowly melting, and that's what's causing the bending. I haven't had that issue. I don't know anybody close to me that has a Switch that's had that issue. Then again, I don't really know anybody with a Switch because I'm one of them lucky bees that was able to get like the Switch on day one. So nah. And where I'm at right now, like local, like geographically, Switches are hard to come by. It's not like Canada. If you are looking for a Switch though, apparently Canada has been pretty well stocked. But I don't. Anyways, what I'm saying is I don't feel like it's a very big issue because I don't think it was warming up as quickly as Breath of the Wild. So maybe for handheld mode, expect a battery life expectancy of maybe about 4 hours. I'm not exactly sure. And this isn't really anything unexpected, personally, because the graphics are pretty good. And from what I can tell, I can actually see there's a lot of technical things going on in the graphics. So, with that, I think one way to alleviate this whole Switch overheating thing when it's in docked mode, not in handheld, because it stays relatively cool, and the air circulates around it well enough, I think, in handheld mode. But is maybe keep a small fan next to your Switch until they come out with a better design where the dock actually has its own fan. I'm not sure. Honestly, I don't know why you can't. Why personally, why I couldn't just like mod a Switch dock and just add a fan to it. But I don't know. Maybe that'll come in time with that. But overall, I liked the Octopath Traveler demo. It was good, and it's a pretty good sized demo for being a demo. It gave me like a good few hours of gameplay. I was like, oh well, all right, That wasn't bad. You could buy something on Steam for like $3 for the same amount of gameplay, but this one was a little bit deeper and made me wanting more. So mostly because it was only partially a story. So yes, of course I'd want more if I enjoyed it. It's just like, here's the beginning. Play more. Buy it. Anyways, what else have I played? As of recent, I haven't played a whole bunch of it, but I've been revisiting Bejeweled 3. Yeah, I know it's an old game, but Bejeweled 3, when did that release? Why? Don't ask me why. Y'all know why. It's called Puzzle Game Addiction. Oh, it's not that old. I thought it was released earlier. But apparently Bejeweled 3 came out in 2010. Okay. Oh, PopCap. I miss you guys. EA. It's the reason why I hate EA. There's a lot of reasons why I have problems with EA. Yeah. That's a story. That's a discussion for another time, because I can just ramble on about that for a long time. What happened to PopCap Games and EA and all that? Because if you didn't know, PopCap Games got bought out by EA. So now PopCap Games is kind of in a similar concept boat of like Atari, even though Atari is literally just an empty shell of what it used to be, and is now actually owned, run, and completely done by Infogrames, which officially changed their name to Atari because Infogrames is crap. Anyways, Bejeweled 3, what did I think? Does it still hold up? Of course it does. It's Bejeweled 3. And since this was a newer computer, I didn't have any of my save information on it within my laptop and all that. So, was it hard unlocking all the modes? No, I actually unlocked it within like 30 minutes of actual gameplay. It was really easy. But that's only because I've played quite a bit of Bejeweled in my time, so I don't know. It's fun. It's relaxing. If you've never played Bejeweled, it's basically a match 3 game. I'm not sure why, unless you're like really young, then maybe you haven't played Bejeweled. But it's basically a match 3 game. It's the match 3 game that really started the match 3 game craze. And without Bejeweled, you wouldn't have games like Candy Crush. For better or for worse, you wouldn't have Candy Crush. For better or for worse, you wouldn't have Pokemon Shuffle or Puzzles and Dragons, which are pretty good games as well. Candy Crush, I will give it some respect and say, yes, it's fun, but I still like Bejeweled better because I hate pay-to-win aspects. I hate the direction that most casual games have gone these days. As a hardcore casual gamer, which sounds like an oxymoron, but as a hardcore casual gamer, I find it very distressing to see the casual game market go in that direction of being like level after level after level. I want something where I can just play for as long as I want, like an original Tetris, you know what I mean? Anyways, thinking about casual games, another notable thing that I've played recently, only because I finally picked it up, because it's been sitting in that Google Play Store for probably a few years now, and it seems like something that I would probably have played more of, but Pixel Dungeon on Android, it's good. It's kind of tricky. I'm just happy that my oldest son is really into it, because he's like, I like this kind of game. And I was like, that's cool. It's called a roguelike. He's like, roguelike. Okay, well, he didn't... He's not stupid. It's like, this is what we'll call a roguelike, son. Roguelike. No, anyway, I was like, well, if you like these kind of games, I can let you play the copy of Pokemon Mystery Dungeon. That one's fun. He's like, oh, okay, cool. I was like, you get to choose your own, you get to be a Pokemon and play in a team. He's like, oh, that's cool. I was like, yeah, it is. It's actually pretty good. But yeah, that made me smile. It came off creepy. That made me smile. Ew. Oh boy. What else have I played? Who cares? Let's just move on to the blah 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 boom boom book club. Book club. Book club. So, did I read the book this time? Did I actually read the book, or did I just read the Spark Notes? Spark Notes. Why did I choose Spark Notes? More people are familiar with Cliff Notes. Whatever. I did read the books this time. One book I didn't really read was Paladins, which is available on Steam, PS4, and Xbox One. So I did play it Yes, I did. And I checked out the new characters that they added, and oh my gosh, apparently I haven't played in a long time because they added a whole bunch of people. Let's look this up real fast. Paladins tier list. Don't know who I should go with. 10-ton hammer or some Reddit thread for Paladins. We'll go to 10-ton hammer. I feel like this is going to be biased. So, this is how I'm going to deal with it. I'm going to look at the tier list and see if I kind of agree. And yes, this is going to be kind of similar to the last time I played Paladins. But last time I played Paladins and talked about it on the podcast, I actually played quite a bit. This time I only played a very little bit, and test ran all the all the new characters in training mode just to get an idea of how they feel like and all that. So I can at least get some sort of like really loose, shallow idea of what they are and how they work, which is kind of okay, whatever. So yeah, so the new characters that they added in that was new, at least new to me, was Leon, Ash, going down this line, I believe Genos, yeah, Saris, Willow, Zin, I think Inara, Strix. Yeah, I think that was it. Yeah, I realized maybe Tenton Hammer has a recency bias. Wouldn't be surprised, but whatever. I don't know. Yeah, the list is different on the Reddit because Fernando is at S rank here, but on Tenton Hammer, Fernando is, I believe he's A. Where is he? I saw him earlier. Yeah, he's A list. So you got on Tenton Hammer site, they're going by S tier, A plus, A, B plus, B, and C. So on the from Tenton Hammer, tentonhammer.com, the Paladins tier list. You can look this up if you want. On the S tier, you've got Ash, Barrack, Cassie, Leon, Makoa, Shaolin. And I can kind of agree with Barrack because he is pretty easy to use, and I'd agree with Cassie because she tends to do like really good damage. And Shaolin, I suppose I can agree with him being on S tier, but you have to be kind of good at him, and you have to kind of like sniping, anyways. But well, then again, most people are good at sniping, so maybe it's not that big of a. It's like a Kanessa situation, but he uses a bow and arrow. Either way, yeah, I suppose I agree with that. Mostly, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Some okay, so tier list movement. Apparently, Drogos with some updates was moved to A plus. Fernando was moved down. Oh, Drogos was moved down to A plus. Fernando was moved down to A. Eevee was moved down to B tier for a reason of a few too many bugs can seriously hamstring her. Ash was moved to S tier. Grover was moved to A plus. So yeah, I think people are realizing that Grover, as long as you play from like really far behind, you basically just own the game if you're good at just like sniping people with your axe. Lex has moved down to B plus. Tyra has been moved down to B plus. Kanessa has moved up to A. Zin has been moved up to A plus, and Droxus surprisingly has been moved up to A, and Barrack has been moved up to S. So, what does this all mean? If you don't play Paladins, you don't care. But I think still my favorite characters have got to be Barrack and Grover at this point. Maybe Fernando. And a little bit of Sky. But I know Sky is always on the bottom of the list, bottom of the tier list. But I actually play pretty decent with Sky, but I have to agree with this. Like, because Sky is so easy to like take down and easily counterable, people have kind of overused her. People kind of play a certain style with Sky, so it's like you kind of know what they're going to do. It's sometimes hard to be unpredictable, and I think that's what the key is with Sky, because I've had some rounds with Sky where I've kind of owned the map or have done relatively well. But yeah, another point here is, I'll just read it. Easily shut down in a coordinated team and too easily anticipated due to her audio cues. Yes, I'd have to say I'd have to agree with that, because when you use her ultimate, she's like, "Here, I got a present for you," or whatever she says. I don't remember. Uh, yeah, it's like, oh snap, and it's you have that like 1.5 second delay of the bomb actually going off. Maybe it's like only a second or a half second. I have no idea. I don't remember. but like there's that delay, so you hear her say, "Here, I'm dropping a secret bomb, guys. Get ready. Y'all screwed now." You know, I feel like it's kind of stupid that she does that. They need to get rid of that. It's dumb. I agree with Grok still being on B tier or C tier. Here he's on B tier because Grok is slow and he's not. I don't know. I feel I don't if I remember right. I don't remember his damage being all that great. And it's surprising to see Maeve move from S tier all the way down to B from the last time I looked at a tier list. That's weird. That's a big one. Maybe let's see. Let's see what the reasons are here. Good mobility and slightly improved this patch. It doesn't say anything. Doesn't tell me anything. Because I always thought Maeve was just really good because, yeah, I don't know. Honestly, here's the thing. Here's my problem with tier lists. As long as you're actually good at the character and you figured out a way to keep your character unpredictable enough and you play them well enough, I feel like you can pretty much do well with any character you want. Of course, you're going to have some of those characters that are obviously kind of flawed in certain situations or a lot of situations, kind of like a Sky situation. If you have someone that's really egging on the defense and is well aware that you're there trying to like knock people off from behind, it's like, I, whatevs. Oh yeah, Willow is pretty OP. I have to agree with that. I'm looking at this tier list. Willow is pretty OP. Now I remember who Willow was. Yeah, she's like the fairy person with like the fairy bombs. It's like pew 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 boom. It's kind of like Bomb King, but easier because you're not like just basically dropping sticky bombs. So if you're not good at aiming and you still like explosion damage, go for Willow. But Makoa is still one of my favorites, only because of that scorpion move. It's very rewarding when you can pull off those scorpion moves with the blast. Be like, get over here, and then blast him in the face. I still like that. That's still very rewarding to me. And again, I haven't played very much. I kind of went on hiatus with this game. I don't know. So what do I think? What do I think of all these new characters? I like the new characters. They're all pretty good. They're not all for me, obviously. Some of the characters I like may not be characters you like. I'm kind of a scrub when it comes to these kind of games, so I'm really not the right person to be asking about it like a arena shooter. It's just I'm really not. A TF2 clone. Yeah, send your hate in the comments below. TF2 clones. The TF2 style. I don't know what it's called. Team arena shooter? Sure. I don't know. I'm still kind of in the sentiment of wanting to wait for the full release to come out. So, I don't know. Am I gonna keep playing it? Yeah, maybe. If I'm actually in the mood for an FPS. Because if I'm in the mood for an FPS, this is the kind of FPS game that I'm going to be playing. More likely, if it's not some kind of old schooly one. That's like boom boom with the pow pow and the pew pew. So we'll just move on from this. Tell me what you thought. If this is your first time playing, who's your favorite characters? Personally, my favorite character is still Barrack, because I like dwarves. I'm pretty simple like that. And he's relatively easy to use. Barrack is slowly becoming my favorite character in the whole bunch. Yeah. So, who's your favorite character? Let me know in the comments below. Moving on. Splatterhouse 3. So I forgot that Splatterhouse actually had kind of a heavy storyline going on and multiple endings. I thought that was kind of interesting. I forgot about that. I was like, dude, all right. Now I remember why I don't have that much memory on Splatterhouse series, because I think when I was first playing it years ago, I didn't think about that kind of stuff. I was just like, it's a beat 'em up, let's play, and blood and guts, that kind of stuff. And it throws you off maybe a little bit if you're just a little kid, but if you're a kid and just my automatic assumption is, oh, it's a beat 'em up. Just go in and beat up guys. I can see where and why I didn't get very far. Now, Splatterhouse 3 is pretty cool. You got a little, if you didn't read the book this time. This is the Genesis version. I don't remember if there's a Super Nintendo version, but I have to look that up. But in the Genesis version, at least, you go from floor to floor, trying to trying to save your wife and kid from the monster, blah 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 blah, and you're this character that's kind of like possessed by this evil mask, and you gotta like the first. It was kind of cool. I like this. Now, if you don't, there's a time limit here too. So like, if you don't get to your girlfriend in time, she dies. But you can still play the game because you got to go and save your kid as well. And the game doesn't automatically end if one of the two or both have died, because let's say you're able to pull off let's say a perfect game. A perfect game in this scenario would be the good ending. The good ending is that both your wife and your kid have survived, and the curse that you have with the mask breaks, and blah blah blah, and you live happily ever after with your wife and kid, and all this horror can be put behind you. Now, if you if you're not able to save one or the other, you get kind of an okay ending, where it's like, okay, I was at least able to save you, and let's break the curse of this mask. Now the bad ending is you still break the curse of the mask, but now you're left alone and lonely and depressed because your family died and you weren't fast enough. So I thought that was kind of cool. Like it puts a little bit of pressure on the player, and for a beat 'em up, it's kind of a neat concept. And correct me if I'm wrong, but at least all the beat 'em ups I've played never really had that much of a mechanic in there. Now for some reason the only one I can think of is like Double Dragon and man, I gotta be tired or something. But the Tick, not a very good beat 'em up. It's fun, and it's definitely fun if you like the Tick, but it's kind of repetitive. It's not like Splatterhouse quality where it's like you've got that exploratory thing and you got cool monsters and all that. It's just Tick, all the characters kind of feel the same, all the enemies kind of feel the same, all the attacks kind of feel the same. So it's not as well polished. It is a licensed game, so I never really expect much from licensed games. That's not saying all licensed games are garbage, because some licensed games are absolute classics. But back on path with Splatterhouse, and I'm surprised, maybe, has there ever been a Splatterhouse movie? Because I feel like this could make an easy movie. Splatterhouse movie? Oh, maybe there is. Let's see. Wait a second. The first thing that comes up is this thing on YouTube. Yeah, this is a fan project. Never mind. Alright, so yeah, never mind. There's never been a Splatterhouse movie. Interesting. Okay, so if you don't know, the storyline of the first one is the big bad guy basically kidnaps your girlfriend and kills you, and on your dying breath you find this mask and it links up with your body, and it's like kind of a cursed like possession type situation where like it says, I'll let you live and heal all your wounds basically and turn you into a super powered machine if you let me take you over, and then you can go save your girlfriend, and then the character in Last Desperation doesn't want his girlfriend to die and all that, does it. No, I'm not evil. I'm not laughing at this. I typed in Splatterhouse in Google, and apparently there's this hold up. Okay, so never played the new version in 2010, and it looks like it's on Xbox 360 and PS3. Yeah. Alright. There's this one game called Splatterhouse Wanpaku Graffiti? The fudge? Oh, it's on the NES. It's weird. This is like chibi cartoon characters, and it's like all cutesy, but it's still Splatterhouse. What is going on? What the balls? How do I not know this game? Maybe it was a Japanese only release. Yeah, okay, yeah, it's a Japanese exclusive for the Famicom, which is basically the NES. Just the Japanese localized version of the NES. But anyways, huh. Okay, Splatterhouse Wanpaku Graffiti. I'm going off topic here. Look that up. Just type in Splatterhouse in Google and you'll find it, and you'll see like what looks like a knockoff Jason, and like the 2010 like creepy looking like blood splatter image, and then in that whole bunch you'll come across like this cutesy little guy with a butcher's knife and a hockey mask giving the peace symbol. Okay, I wonder if I can find like a fan version of this, like a fan translation or whatever, like maybe a ROM. Because how much would Wanpaku Graffiti actually sell for? Let's see. Okay, that's not too bad, I guess. It's like $25, $35. I'm looking at. Oh, these are repros. $25 repro, English translation. At least I think it's a repro. I am not the right person to be asking about this kind of stuff. I am definitely not Pat the NES punk. This is not the completely unnecessary podcast. I am the wrong person to ask to be looking figure out if something's a repro on a NES or Famicom. I would better be suited for like trying to figure out like whether something's a repro on a Game Boy. When it comes to Nintendo consoles, the thing I'm good at figuring out if it's a repro or bootleg is the Game Boy and Game Boy Advance. That's where my strength lies. There's not a huge audience for that, unfortunately. I never really played that up. Maybe Genesis stuff too, but yeah. No. Anyways, basically, the big storyline of Splatterhouse is that in the first one, you gotta go save your girlfriend. Second one, you gotta save your girlfriend again, but you're gonna get married and all that. Third one, you've been married because it takes place 5 years later, and now you have a kid, and you got to go save both your wife and kid. Kind of a neat story. Very simple story, but it's fun. Okay, so basically, let's break it down to this, because it's not like a real deep game or anything, outside of some cool mechanical things like the exploratory like room levels and all that. Like you got to get, it's not like a straightforward level. You got to go from room to room, beat up bad guys, and maybe find some like items or whatever, and then find the boss room and move on to the next level, like next floor of the mansion. Really, the question is, if you haven't played it and you are curious, does it still hold up? Now, the thing is, I think it does, definitely for a beat 'em up. I think it holds up better than most beat 'em ups. Beat 'em ups for me personally, I love beat 'em ups, and I always enjoy beat 'em ups, and definitely a good one. But I feel as if beat 'em ups don't hold up as well as they used to. Like one good example I can say would be maybe that X-Men, the original X-Men arcade from like the early 90s. The one that would have like, depending on what cabinet it was, you can have up to 4 players, maybe 8 players. And yeah, it's definitely more of a co-op game. It's more fun with friends. But personally, I don't know. It could feel a little bit monotonous because you're just going around beating up bad guys, moving on and fight a boss, and then move to the next level. You have a palette change. You're in a different level, different kind of bad guys and all that. Cut that out. Dapper J is freaking out in the back. I forgot to use his moniker. Dapper J is freaking out in the back. He is laughing and giggling like crazy, and it's way too freaking late. Baby needs to go to sleep. He runs on my schedule. I have a graveyard job, and he hates going to sleep if I'm not there. So it's been getting worse, but luckily he doesn't go to school because he's a toddler, He's at the terrible twos. He's my youngest. So, yeah, I got kids that range from the ages of like 2 to 10. Which is nerve-wracking because my oldest is in middle school now, and I'm just like, ugh. Okay, so that was the other reason why I didn't get to play this game a whole bunch as much as I would have liked, because it is very gory. It's got a lot of blood, and even though it's like 16-bit graphics and 16-bit pixels, in terms of a 16-bit game, it's drawn really well. The animations are really good for its time. I think that's what really like allows this Splatterhouse at least, and from what I remember from the other Splatterhouses, to like really hold up very well because the animation for its time is solid. It's so solid. It's got to be one of the better like beat 'em ups or just video games I've seen graphically. I mean, but it is bloody, and there's some real freaky looking like monsters from like Cthulhu-y type, well, more like demons from like Doom. But you got those real gnarly looking monsters, and every time you kill, smack them around with like some kind of weapon or whatever you pick up, green goo and blood and whatever starts popping around. And your power up mode when you turn into like the big giant monster thing. It can all be relatively freaky for a little kid, so I didn't like playing this. I don't like playing these kind of games when I've got little kids running around being like, "Hey, Daddy, what are you doing? What game are you playing today? What game are you going to talk about today?" I don't want to be like, "Yo, check out this. check out this bloodbath. Yeah." With at least Paladins, it's kind of cartoony, so it's a little bit excusable. So they might just like get a small glimpse and be like, "Oh, he's playing one of those shooty games, one of those FPS games." This one, it's definitely horror. It feels like a B slasher film, and I think that's what makes it fun as well. I think one of the reasons why it holds up so well because it puts you in the feet of a slasher film, but you're not really the bad guy, because even though you might look like the bad guy, you're not the bad guy. You're fighting the bad guys, and that's fun. So I feel like I'm talking in circles here, but so let's go back to this thing. Do I think it holds up? I think Splatterhouse 3 holds up really well, and it makes me want to look back into Splatterhouse 1, 2, and 3, and maybe do a video on this, like the Splatterhouse series. Maybe not cover the newest one from 2010, the reboot, because I've never played that. I don't feel like picking up a whole new game for a system I don't really have anymore, which is an Xbox 360. Birdie Berry has it, so maybe I can pick that up for her, but that's not the kind of game she would play. 360. Oh, ouch. IGN gave it a 4 out of 10. Wow, sad. Okay. I don't know. From what I heard, it wasn't that bad. Maybe it's not, like, a bad game. Maybe it's just not, like, really good in any way. I don't know. Maybe I would have to play it. But the older ones hold up really well. So, honestly, if you like beat-em-ups, Splatterhouse is a solid beat-em-up. At least from my perspective and from what I know of beat-em-ups. Like, the series of beat-em-ups that I know better would be like Streets of Rage. Technically Alien Hominid, though I would call that more of a shoot-em-up than anything else. Like a run and gun. Though some people have called it a beat-em-up, but it's not really a beat-em-up. It's a run and gun. The Simpsons Arcade Cabinet. Oh my gosh, I used to play that. I think The Simpsons Arcade is the one arcade game I've played the most of when arcades used to be a thing. Like in an actual arcade, and I'm not just talking about like MAME-ulation, playing on MAME. But yeah, the Simpsons one is a good one. That's a good one. That's a classic. It definitely feels old, but it's still fun. You know what I mean? Because just the amount of characters that pop up and the random mini games in between levels is just spot on. It's spot on. It's good work. They did a good job back then. Who made that? I'm getting nostalgic about beat-em-ups now. I want to play Double Dragon 4, but I haven't picked it up, and I'm kind of edging on it because I've heard like mixed reviews. Double Dragon 4 is the newest Double Dragon, kind of a reboot to the series. It's a continuation of Double Dragon 2's storyline, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I heard like if you enjoyed the old Double Dragons on NES, which I do, and I did, you'd enjoy it, but there isn't enough depth to have it really stand up, against current beat-em-ups. Like, Lost Castle. That's a good one. Lost Castle is kind of a roguelite beat-em-up, which is a cool idea, and it's fun. If you love beat-em-ups, look up Lost Castle on Steam. It's actually a lot of fun. You'd enjoy it. What was I looking up? Alright, The Simpsons. Made in 1991. Ran on a Motorola 6809. Oh, it's Konami. Okay, well then, that's probably why it was good. Back when Konami used to make games. Wow, it's cool. Oh, Konami was also the one that did the X-Men arcade. That's cool. Alright. Yeah, the X-Men one, look, I'm not saying it was bad, but I'm gonna say I wouldn't really say X-Men was as good as Simpsons or Splatterhouse in retrospect. I think what made the X-Men arcade game fun was that you just had your favorite X-Men out there. I'm looking at you, Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite. You had some of your favorite Marvel characters, like Wolverine and Colossus and Cyclops and Nightcrawler. Was Nightcrawler in that? Probably. Storm and Jubilee. I loved playing as Jubilee and I always ended up playing as Jubilee because, like, anytime I'd hang out with my friends and go to the arcade, it didn't happen very often, but it was mostly for like birthday parties and such. But if I was hanging out with my friends and at the arcade, it would be like, they're like, let's all go play X-Men. It's like, yeah, yeah. And I'd always get stuck with like, I'd always get stuck with either Jubilee or Cyclops because one kid would be like, Wolverine's mine, and the other person's like, I'm Colossus, and the other person's like, I'm Storm. Yeah, and one person, yeah. So all the popular characters are like taken. And I'm just sitting there like, well, I'm either Jubilee or Cyclops. I like Cyclops, but Cyclops wasn't so low on the tier, so most of the time, if I was playing with other people, I'd end up being Jubilee. So I like Jubilee, and I got good at Jubilee. Freaking Jubilee. Though, oh my gosh, I've said this story before at some point, probably on the channel or something. But the one thing I liked about the X-Men beat 'em up game, I'm maybe getting confused with the Super Nintendo or Genesis or the arcade game. I don't remember. I want to say it was the arcade version, but Colossus. Colossus was one of my friend's favorite characters. We soon realized that Colossus, we called him Mr. Constipation, because for some reason his special move was like this thing where he'd be like, ah, and get like this painful look on his face and ball his fists in the air and be like, ah, and like pull down in the air and with his fists like, ah, and like this like shield of energy would like expand around him and kill any of the bad guys around him or cause damage to the boss you're fighting or whatever. And it just looked like he was, the joke was he was pushing out a turd, and it was made out of metal because he's made out of metal. It's gross, I know, I'm sorry. Poo jokes. But what can you expect from middle school Pong? Can't expect much. Constipation ban. He was the coolest. The constipation guy. So every time I see Colossus, I love Colossus as an X-Men character, but I can't stop thinking about poo jokes. Oh boy, okay. But yeah, no, in terms of like what games holds up better in terms of a beat 'em up, I'd say if I had to like really like say which ones are better than each other, I'd say maybe Simpsons and Splatterhouse are kind of close to a tie. I need to play the original Splatterhouse or pick up a copy of the MAME version of Splatterhouse and all that, and then compare it to The Simpsons. Because The Simpsons, everything that I remember, and last time I played it was maybe, I say 10 years ago, but I want to say it was closer to like 15. Maybe 15 years ago. I was quite surprised, even then, 15 years ago, back around maybe like 2005, 2000, it was still fun to play. I was like, oh, no, I wasn't surprised. But looking back on it, I think I'm quite surprised that it was still a lot of fun to play, and it held up relatively decently for its time. I was like, oh, well, okay. So maybe it's the art style, because it really does just look like a Simpsons cartoon that you're playing. You know what I mean? So maybe that's why it holds up so well. It just looks good. And then maybe I'd put X-Men just a little bit lower than that. Not that much lower, but y'all can kill me for this, but I'm going to say Simpsons and Splatterhouse is better than the X-Men arcade. I'm sorry. I love the X-Men game. I love it. I'm not saying I hate it. I love it. There's some things I just like better. Oh boy, I'm looking at the time. Let's move on. So yeah, Splatterhouse 3 on the Genesis, it still holds up really well. Go play it if you didn't pick it up. It's a nice game for the Halloween season, as long as you don't mind the gore. Definitely 16-bit gore. 20XX. So 20XX was that game that finally released out on Steam in its full release, and they're still patching it and updating it and all sorts of stuff, patching and updating. But now it's officially released at version 1. Something 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 blah 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 1.1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10. I don't know. I don't care. No, it doesn't matter. The game is technically released now. It's not just early access. And they, like I've probably said this before, but they brought back some old elements that I really liked in the earlier beta versions, and brought in some new elements. And when the first time I started playing this game back in like 2015, there'd be some elements in the randomization where I'd be like, oh, I've seen this kind of, tile before, where it's like, oh, this kind of like this platform setup. I've seen this before. I've seen this kind of level design before. And even though that still kind of happens with the full release, it happens less. And when it does happen, it doesn't feel like a full-out repeat. It feels maybe slightly better, slightly more random. And with that, I like it. Now, platforming-wise, I wouldn't say it's like as difficult as Mega Man, but it can still be pretty difficult. Definitely if you're not used to Mega Man gameplay. And this game makes me realize I'm still not very good at Mega Man. Or maybe I've just lost my touch. But I don't know. Do I have a favorite character to play? I have to go with the girl character, not Ace. I can't remember her name. The Mega Man clone, not the Proto Man clone, or Zero clone, really. Because what 20XX is, if you haven't played it and wanted Mighty Number 9 to be good, you need to play 20XX. It is a solid roguelite Mega Man X inspired game. It feels and looks like Mega Man X. Now, one problem I have with 20XX is I personally feel that there needs to be more and more enemy variation. Because oftentimes than not, you get like similar enemies popping up in different types of levels. So like you might be in the jungle levels, or you might be in the ice levels, but you'll still see the bat guys. You know what I mean? And you might still see a slight variation on the weird snake guys that like shoot thingies, or like the plant guys. It's like, it's just there's been a color swap, because it's like, oh, this is the ice version, this is the factory version, this is the blah 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 version. I feel like that's its weakest point, but that still doesn't detract from the fact that it's a solid game. There's quite a bit of unlocks that can occur, like upgrades and all sorts of cool stuff. I like the challenge modes, like the daily challenge, the weekly challenge, the hardcore mode, and I like the fact that they brought back the difficulty settings, which is nice. You can play either easy, regular, or hardcore, basically, and all sorts of stuff. I like that. And then with that you can add and subtract your experience. So you can say, oh, now the bad guys do more damage, or now less items show up, or more health stuff shows up, or the enemies are stronger now, that kind of stuff. You can kind of nitpick and kind of customize your gameplay experience. So like, let's say now you're at the point where playing a regular hard mode is getting a little too easy. Maybe just add more junk to it and be like, well, now I can't do this, add this, take away this, So I can see some good replay value coming from that, maybe. Overall, I think the game has a huge amount of replay value, so it doesn't exactly matter. But if you like customizing your experience, it's there. So that's cool. I like that. Co-op-wise, it's still a good co-op game. Overall, I've gotten better at it. I don't know. I'm not sure if the game is easier for me now than it was when I first started playing, but I'm doing better. Maybe I'm getting better at platformers. I don't know. But with that, do I still recommend 20XX? Yes, I do. I think where it's at now, I might have to raise its score a little bit to maybe like 8.5 or 9, but it easily gets my thumbs up. All three of these games easily gets my thumbs up. Which one out of the video game book club am I most likely to pick up again? Because these kind of, maybe outside of Splatterhouse 3, I would say Paladins and 20XX is the games that have the highest amount of replay value. But if I'm in the mood for a good beat 'em up, maybe I'd pick up Splatterhouse 3. Which one would I say has the highest amount of replay value? If I had to like pit these three games against each other, I would say it's 20XX. But that's only a personal taste. This is kind of subjective because I just like platformers and I like Mega Man. So, of course I'm going to pick 20XX over, Paladins or Splatterhouse. Now, if I had to choose between Splatterhouse 3 and Paladins in just a random gaming session, assuming the fact that I want to play Paladins or Splatterhouse 3 equally, which one am I going to more likely pick up? It might be kind of a coin toss, but maybe Paladins because of the chaotic nature of just arena shooters. But I think if I didn't have much time, maybe I'd pick up Splatterhouse 3 for just a quick session. You know what I mean? Even though, I don't know. I like them all. They all get my thumbs up, but I would say the best experiences for me with the video games in this book, with the video games in the video game book club, I would have to say it would have to be 20XX. I enjoyed that the most out of all three of them. Then maybe Splatterhouse 3, and then, but I'm not giving Paladins the short stick. I probably would have enjoyed Paladins just as much as the other two if I had actually had time to play it. And it was funny. Last week, it's like the one time I had time to play Paladins. I was like, all right, well, I've got like a few hours to spare. I'm gonna set this down with Paladins. And so, and because I had played, quite a bit of Splatterhouse before that, quite a bit of 20XX before that, and I was like, all right, let's get to Paladins. This one's an easy pick up and play. You can just play a few rounds and call it good, or play a whole bunch of rounds and experiment with different characters and all that in different modes. And servers went down for maintenance after I had played around, just a little bit. I was like, no, 30 minutes of play. So that was supposed to be my big night of playing Paladins, but I couldn't get to it. So at that point, I had to just kind of sparingly play Paladins when I was able to squeeze it into my schedule. I was just like, oh, this hurts. This hurts me. So let's give Paladins another try again, and for the next episode, I'll give you an update. It's not officially on the book club, but we'll say it's the extra credit because next book club is bum ba da dum ba da ba ba bum bum ba ba bum Pongtoberfest. Somehow this turned into Phantom of the Opera with Paladins. Paladin. That was. I'm never doing that again. I say that kind of stuff over and over again, but I keep doing it over and over again. I'm just a big fat phony. I'm a big phony. I'm a liar. You constantly lie, Pong. Why, Sensei? It's called a hard lesson, and I'm the sensei. Anyways, with Pongtoberfest, I've chosen 3 games. 2 of them are the same things, and I have one extra credit one, assuming to the fact that I won't have time for it. But I'm not sure if I will or not, but it's on the list of the book club as extra credit. What's that extra credit? And what's the other games? Well, first one is The Count by Scott Adams. Now, you don't have to play this. You really don't. I'm not asking you to. It's a text adventure. It's old school text adventure. I want to say it was made in 1979, 1982. I'm good at... There's a few things I'm good at when it comes to video game information. I want to say... My mind keeps saying... My gut is telling me it's 1982. But I know that's wrong. Yeah, 1979. Yeah, I knew my gut was wrong. It's 1979. The Count by Scott Adams. Now, you're going to ask yourself, how am I going to play this, Pong? Well, this is easy. There's a few ways to do this. And you can look up... I'm going to leave a couple links down below in the description if you want to pick this up. And try your willpower with a text adventure. Now, if you're like me and have played interactive fictions and text adventures in the past, you're going to have fun with this, probably. You're probably going to have a lot of fun with this. But if you've never played it and don't know where to start, definitely on newer systems and all that, I do have links below in the description. If you want to click on them links, you can look up the interactive fiction database and look for The Count by Scott Adams. It should be there. Let's double check that. It's in my... Yes, I use Opera. It's in my speed dial. Interactive Fiction Database. Yeah, Scott Adams. 3 out of 5 stars, according to these folks. They're not always right. Okay, there you go. Yeah, they've got download links. So yeah, I'll leave a link to this in the description below so you can actually download the game. But now here's the other problem. You're not going to be able to play the game if you don't have an interpreter. And I'll have a link for that as well. If you want to look for it yourself, if you're running pretty much anything outside of Android and iPhone, you can look. My personal favorite interpreter is Gargoyle. Then maybe it's going to be a Drift and Frotz. QTADS is pretty good from what I've heard. For Mac systems, there's this thing called Splatterlight. It's supposed to be able to read like a whole bunch of different types of files. And then on Android for these interactive fictions, I would recommend this one simply called Text Fiction. But if you go onto Google Play and just search up interactive fiction, that should be one of the first ones that pop up. That one's actually pretty decent. And then the other one I would recommend, if you don't like that one, you should try out XYZZY, also known as Last Skizzy. If you don't understand why it's called XYZZY, don't worry about it, I suppose. It's an old interactive fiction kind of like cheat code meme thing. Easter egg, maybe, to some degree. It's like the Konami code with video games. Sometimes you just need to type that in to see what happens. If you're playing a text adventure, XYZZY. Or that skizzy, type in that skizzy. I hope that didn't come off come off as like a bad. It sounds like a bad like Bill Cosby. A skizzy. All them kids with their computers typing in that skizzy. Skizzy with the XYZZY. Bill Cosby, everybody. Bill Cosby. So yeah, if that interests you, The Count by Scott Adams, down below in the description below. Now, the 2 games I have for the next book club for Pongtoberfest are actually quite interesting. They're fun. They're classics. I haven't played them in years. So honestly, I think all my memories on it is really vague. But Zombies Ate My Neighbors. Now, what I'm going to do for this book club, and this is the one game, if I don't have time to play anything else, I'm going to like set myself to play this. Because I don't believe I ever played it all the way through. Because I'm gonna play the Sega Genesis version, and I'm also gonna play the Super Nintendo version, and we're gonna go head to head and say which one is better. And even if they're like absolutely similar, not like an Aladdin situation where the game is drastically different, we're gonna finally figure out which version is better, Sega Genesis or SNES. Now this is probably gonna be subjective, and I might have a bias. If you know me, you'd probably figure out where my bias lies, but figure out which one feels better to play, which one's tighter on the controls, which one has better music, which one looks better graphically, whatever, that kind of stuff. I think I already kind of know what my feelings are going to be if I have a bias, but Zombies Ate My Neighbors on Genesis and or Super Nintendo, and I'm going to have a head-to-head fight here on the book club. Yo, 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 book club, boom, boom, boom. And finally, the extra credit game that I'm doing is Costume Quest on Steam. It's been in my library for a long time. I've been wanting to do it as a Let's Play, but I don't like doing Let's Plays unless they're blind. So it's just been sitting there, and I'm like, you know what? I have a bunch of games I haven't played because of the channel and being like, no, if I'm going to do a Let's Play, I'd rather do it blind because I do better blind. I'm funnier that way. I don't feel like everything's campy, like everything's kind of like trite. When I do a Let's Play, I don't like playing a game beforehand. I like going in blind. It makes things less organized, I know, if it's blind. But, I like that unexpected territory thing because when something surprises me, it honestly surprises me. And you get to see that for the first time with me as the player. If you've played it, and you can watch me and be like, dude, you're playing this all wrong. You're an idiot. With that, yes, Zombies Ate My Neighbors, and Costume Quest, and then The Count by Scott Adams. That's for the next book club. Go look for those. Oh, the reason why I chose The Count by Scott Adams is it's going to be a nice little lead-in into interactive fiction, visual novel, text adventure month. Visual novel, no, what do I call it? It's a visual novel, interactive fiction, text adventure month. VNIFTA month. Yeah, it's a terrible name. But I want to cover all of them. This also includes choose your own adventure games. So, but that reminds me, I think I have an idea of what I want to play for the book club for that, because I know I've said this before, my audience for the YouTube channel is like a weird mixed bag. I have people coming in for different things, and I have a bunch of people coming in because of one thing or like one series, and I have another bunch of people that like me because of my visual novels. And that audience is big enough for me to say, okay, I should do this every once in a while, appease the masses to some degree, because I enjoy those games, but I just don't think everybody else does. I want to make fun content that I can enjoy, that you can enjoy, and I can brighten your day with. That's what I do. That's what I want to do. And this podcast is a bad representation of my work, because it's not. I'm not sure if I brighten your day. Anyways, leave your comments down below if you don't think these are good ideas. But A Midsummer's Night Choice by Choice of Games, which is available on Steam, and it should be available on Android and iPhone. And this is like the most like beginner entry like text adventure, because it's like you're not typing in codes or anything. You're just doing like, it's a choose your own adventure, quite literally. Like it's like directed paths, like a choose your own adventure book from the 90s. So like, you read a little bit, and then you have 4 options of what you want to do, and then depending on what 4 options you chose, it goes in a certain direction, if that makes sense. Yeah. And then there's good endings and bad endings and neutral endings and whatever, what have you. And oftentimes with these choose your own choice of games, choose your own adventures, there's also a score to show you what your stats were. And oftentimes also, depending on what you've chosen throughout the game, your stats change, and depending on your stats, different options can open up, which is kind of neat. Another game I'm thinking about doing for the November Video Game Book Club is this one called Namco High, which is this weird visual novel dating sim, officially released by Bandai Namco, and it's now available for free to play online through Bandai Namco's official site. So all you really have to do is Google search Namco High. I figured, okay, if no one wants to put down any money for the book club, we can just do that. That's going to be easy. And maybe I'll actually do an actual reading gamer review on one of these games. Probably Namco High. And Namco High is also just like a weird parody on all dating sims. So it seems like it's a fun idea. Because what you're doing is you're playing, I want to say you're the Katamari Prince from the Katamari games. You know what I mean? The one with the weird like ball that you roll around and you collect junk. It sounds weird if you've never played it. But if you played it, you know it's fun. And you're in a school setting, of course, in a high school called Namco High, and you have the option of dating other Namco characters, which is kind of neat and funny and all sorts of stuff. And finally, the other one I have an idea for playing is this one called Fault Milestone 1, which is actually part of the Fault Milestone series. And I never actually played all the way through Fault Milestone 1, because what happened was I was going to play it for last year's visual novel month, but I ended up not doing it because I was enjoying it. I was really, really enjoying it. But the problem was, I soon realized it's really not the kind of game you want to, definitely as a visual novel, it's really not a visual novel you want to let's play. It may be really good, but it's just not good as a let's play. It's not necessarily the most entertaining thing to watch. The art is really good, the story is really good, and all sorts of stuff about it. Everything else, concept-wise, it is really good. It's just I didn't feel like it was entertaining enough. But I've been wanting to play it for quite a long time. I just never got back around to it. So I'm forcing myself to actually go through it. And this one's actually the easiest entry-level one because it's technically a kinetic novel. And what's that, you might say? Well, a kinetic novel is basically a visual novel without the choices. So basically, you're just reading a book. And yeah, that's not gonna sound appealing to a number of people, and I understand that. But I want to keep this as varied as possible. So early on for the next book club, we have The Count, which is your classic old school text adventure, interactive fiction, and then you have Midsummer's Night Choice, which is kind of the modern take on the choose your own adventure. Then you have Namco High, which is like your standard visual novel dating sim. And then you have Fault Milestone 1, which is your real heady, concept-heavy plot-heavy kinetic novel. So and that's why these are my choices. If you don't agree with it, please let me know, because I can, or if you have other recommendations of what other kind of games you want me to play. Other games I can potentially put on these lists would also be like Danganronpa. Never actually played it. It's been sitting in my library for a long time because it's been sitting down as like one of my blind Let's Plays, which I never got around to. But thinking about Let's Plays, things that you could possibly look forward to on the channel if you're into this kind of stuff is dorA.thI Portable, which is based off the dorA.thI anime. Which reminds me, oh balls, where am I at? An hour and 30 minutes of recording ish. What? Really? I mean, I'm just a rambler, aren't I? Alright. So the freaking anime segment might be kind of short, but dorA.thI is based off the anime dorA.thI, but it's in kind of like a parallel scenario universe where, oh no, the main character who you're playing has had amnesia and wakes up partway through the series. And now it becomes a dating sim, kind of, essentially. Visual novel-ish. Well, it is a visual novel, but it's, yeah. Apparently there's a mini game somewhere in there. I just picked it up because I was like, well, if you ever want to, like, collect in retro handhelds, the PSP market is pretty good right now. A lot of things are pretty cheap. Handhelds tend to be pretty cheap, usually, unless it's a Nintendo console or, like, some obscure RPG on a PSP, but mostly, if you want to play this on your PSP, go right ahead. Now, if you have a hacked PSP, yeah, you can play that. That should be pretty easy to pick up. Not going to support that activity, but yeah, that's a Let's Play. I'm thinking about doing it because dorA.thI is a popular anime. Yeah, it's kind of old, but whatever. I looked up on Google Trends and it's still trending pretty well, so I'm like, oh, whatever, let's just throw it on. Thinking about possibly doing the Namco High if I have time, and the big one that I'm really excited for, which is a short one, which will kick off Visual Novel Month right on just before Halloween possibly, is this visual novel horror comedy parody thing based off of the old Dracula from like 1932 with Bela Lugosi. I think it was directed or something by Todd Browning. If I can remember what the name was, I'll definitely play that as a Let's Play. It shouldn't be that hard because it's a Renpai game. I think it was something like The Visitor, maybe. Yeah, I think that's what it was called. I need to look it up. But it shouldn't be hard for me to find. But that one's pretty short. I think it's like 2 or 3 hours long from the estimated time of play. I never played it. Wanted to play it last year, but never got around to it. So hopefully we can do that. And that might be my Pongtoberfest Let's Play as well. So stay tuned for that. And it also kicks off Visual Novel Month. So that should be pretty cool. Anyways, that's about it for all the video game book club news and Let's Play news that might be coming up. And Visual Novel Month if you're interested in that. So let's move on to our freaking anime. These segues are terrible. So, what have I been watching? What have I binge watched? Well, I'm caught up on Gamers. I binge watched the entirety of Defrag. I've binge watched the entire of Is This a Zombie and Is This a Zombie of the Dead. I binge watched the entirety of Konosuba. I binge watched the entire of ReZero. I binge watched the entirety of Is It Wrong to Pick Up a Girl in a Dungeon? The first season, not the second season. Binged all of dorA.thI. Binged all of Clannad. And kind of trying to catch up on Fairy Tail. Oh boy, that's a long list. Yes, I know. I've been in a weird mood. Give me a break. This never happens to me. And I tried to keep it as video game related as possible. Because with Clannad, that's based off a visual novel. dorA.thI has its own, video game on the PSP, its own visual novel. Is It Wrong to Pick Up a Girl in a Dungeon? And ReZero and Konosuba and Defrag and Gamers are all like kind of play on the RPG tropes. Oh, and Mahojin Guru Guru too. I've been haven't watched that as of like super recently, but I'm relatively caught up on that. I don't think I've seen the most recent episode of the newest season, the reboot. I kind of want to get back to that once the season's over, and then I'll watch it. And when it comes to these kind of things, I like binging them. I like seeing the whole arc as one big chunk. And we'll just go straight down the list. Mahojin Guru, I've talked about it before. It's fun. It's loosely based off of Dragon Quest. It's a parody. It's funny. It's entertaining. And it's mostly kid-friendly. I'd say like PG-13. 10 years old and older, maybe, because of some jokes. But maybe, yeah. It's not like there's any like fan service or anything, but it's just there's some sketch humor in there that you may not want like younger kids to watch. Gamers, same idea. PG-13 easily, because there is some ecchi humor in there. But it's still funny. It's still fun to watch. The characters are still stupid. And that's what makes it fun. What did I think of Is This a Zombie? And season 2. I thought it was okay. It was funny, but I wouldn't say it was as funny as the other ones. There are some things that I was just like, the fan service is a little too heavy, personally, but which we'll go down and talk about with Konosuba. But I don't know. The ideas were kind of fun. My favorite part about Is This a Zombie was the main character's thing with the magical girl character, kind of the Moe character, because he is able to use her magic chainsaw and turn into a magical girl. I thought that was funny, because he's like, I'm going to don the special armor, and he says the magic words, and boop, 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 like a Sailor Moon thing, and then he gets like this cutesy dress on him, and it's just like, oh, this is so face-palmy and cringy, but it's pretty funny. It's a running gag, but whatever. It was still pretty funny all through it. I don't know. I'm kind of sad it got canceled because I kind of want to see where the story goes. At the same time, do I necessarily care? It's hard to say. It was enjoyable, mostly. Konosuba, I heard about through the Anime Summit podcast, I believe, which is another podcast I listen to. They're pretty funny and quite knowledgeable on their animes, which I'm not. I really am not. I would have to. I did hear about that from them. It was them. Yeah, it wasn't. I don't think I heard it on Weebcast, but it was like I'd have to agree with them that the first season is the strongest. Second season's pretty good, but it's one of those things where it's like I'm not sure if they were planning on being as successful as they were. So once the second season rolled around, they were like, okay, we can stretch things a little bit more. We can stretch things out a little bit. We don't have to like try to throw in all our ideas as quickly as possible. But it was fun. It's basically one of those storylines where it's like, oh yeah, I should probably talk about the storylines. Is This a Zombie? Basically, first story arc, major story arc, is that the main character gets killed by some serial killer, and which ends up being this rogue magic girl that like went crazy, and his life gets saved by a necromancer, who of course he has a crush on because it's one of those like visual novelty type tropes, but whatever. Yeah. Anyways, that's about it. And he hunts down the serial killer and realizes the mystery behind it. Not really a mystery, but whatever. And it's not saying it is. I'm just saying whatever. It wasn't anything you seriously thought about. Defrag. It was really fun, but it was pretty short, and it's kind of like, it's one of those, it's a school life anime. It's not like anything like mind blowing. It's just the gags were funny. I think and the characters were mostly likable, but except for the main character, I thought the main character was a bit annoying. Some of the characters were a bit annoying, but mostly it was pretty fun and enjoyable. I'm kind of sad that one got canceled. ReZero. ReZero. So, I heard about ReZero through the Anime Summit podcast, and they don't like it. They pointed out all their hates for it, and do realize that it's like a super popular anime and people love it. But I went into it knowing about the flaws, and I think the biggest problem was that I binge watched it. So, the plot flaws are so clear all throughout, and it is a bit disjointed. I think the reason why it is fun to watch, though, is those few moments where it's like The fighting scenes are really good. That scene where Puck goes like Super Saiyan and it's basically puts the world into a deep freeze is pretty cool. It's this is going to sound tropey if you know your animes, but it's basically kid dies, gets resurrected in a fantasy world, and boom. And one thing is that he's able to die and respawn at save points, quote unquote, because that's how it works in that for him, at least. That's his ability. I don't know. I was getting annoyed with the character, like definitely in that first part, because it's like he's got to be so stupid to not realize that he's respawning, and it's not, regardless of whether or not how like traumatizing his death may have been. It's like you realize what's going on, right? This is basically Groundhog Day, you know. I don't know. I feel like if I was in his shoes, I would have picked that up like after the second or third death, not like the 10th one. You know, it's not like, oh, I think I finally get what's going on. I don't know. There was a few things, and really thinking about it, it was annoying. It was grating, and I'm in the camp of saying Rem is better than Amelia. Just I don't know. It was the end of season 2 was very. It left a sour taste in my mouth because it's like you build up this character relationship between the main character and Rem so hard, and then he just shuts her down, and it's like, wow, you are just kind of a d-bag, aren't you? I'm just like, I don't know. And I looked it up, and I know people were saying that like, well, in the manga this happens, or in the light novel this happens, blah blah blah. But I'm in the sentiment of I share the sentiment with the Anime Summit guys. Well, one of them, at least, saying that it shouldn't have to be that way because the anime should stand by itself. You don't have to like reference outside. It's one of the reasons why I don't necessarily hold Minecraft up to such a high bar. This is a weird analogy. Stick with me on this. Because to like for most people to like truly enjoy Minecraft, you have to not play Minecraft and go online and look up wikis and like recipes and all that. Unless you want to sit there for hours experimenting with every little thing, with every little combination, and it might be an impossibility for most people. Now, that's not necessarily bad in a game, and that's why Minecraft gets the pass, because there's other games like that where it doesn't really explain much, and you got to figure it out all by yourself. But if I'm watching a show, it's not. There's a difference between a video game and drama media, where it's like one is purposefully engaging and the other one is relaxed. I forget that I'm not using the right terms here, but like, yeah, you might relax with a video game and you might relax with a movie, but one you're actually controlling and engaging in forcefully, being like, okay, this is what I'm supposed to do, and you're actually doing things. Whereas a movie, you sit back, relax, and enjoy. So I agree with that, but maybe I don't hate it as much as the Anime Summit guys. ReZero, I'm really hoping they make more seasons to really patch out some of the loose ends, because there were some things that just I didn't feel like was explained very well. And maybe if they finally bring in more seasons, the world can be actually hashed out to its fullest. And hopefully that happens. I want to see that happen because where it stands right now, it feels very unfinished. If you're just watching the anime, I'm not going to be picking up the manga. I don't care about it that much. I do want to see what happens. So, would I recommend it? Yeah. If you enjoy like good action fights and all that kind of stuff, yeah, I'd recommend it. I'd easily recommend it because it does have its cool moments. It definitely has its very cool moments. But that's about it. I don't really have much to say. I'm not good at really critiquing dramatic media because I tend to like most things I watch, and I liked all the things I watched mostly. The things I didn't really enjoy too much was Is This a Zombie and ReZero. There you have it. But moving on, is it wrong to pick up a girl in a dungeon? I loved the first season. I started watching a little bit of the second season. I was like, man, I'm not feeling it. I'm just not feeling it. Because it's like, it's a spin-off. It's called "Is It Wrong to Pick Up a Girl in a Dungeon Gaiden" or something like that. And it's not based around the main character, but it's based around the character, the super high level girl paladin character that, or no, crusader, no, paladin or whatever, that the main character in the main series has a crush on. But she's so blah that I was just like, I can't. After watching like maybe 2 episodes, I was like, I kind of want to watch something else because I'm not in it for the action. I'm not in it for the fights. I'm in it for the comedy. I'm in it for the character. Maybe there is character development over several seasons, but I'm kind of in it for the character development. I'm in it for the comedy. I'm in it for the drama. That kind of stuff. I enjoy that kind of stuff. Not really so much action. So maybe that's one of the reasons why I both hated and liked ReZero. So, I'm a real casual watcher on these kind of things. Moving on. So if you enjoy like weird, wacky comedies, I'd say is it okay to is it wrong to pick up a girl in a dungeon? Pretty funny. It is pretty funny. I'd have to agree. dorA.thI. dorA.thI is a romantic comedy, school life, slice of life kind of thing. Yeah. I don't know. I was trying to find like my fix on like waiting for the newest episode of Gamers. So I was looking up like things that are similar, and then at some point I came across dorA.thI, and I think I remember an Anime Summit podcast talking about like one of the more recent ones, like what would you rewatch? I think they mentioned dorA.thI, or they had mentioned dorA.thI at some point in one of their earlier podcasts and said it was really good. So I was like, okay, whatever, I'll pick it up. I trust their tastes. So I picked it up, and did I enjoy it? Oh, yeah. Oh, heck yeah. I enjoyed it a lot. I think I enjoyed it more than most of the stuff on my list. I'd even say it was better than Gamers, but Gamers isn't over, so I'd have to see how, like, the final arcs of that series goes. How it all plays out, regardless of whoever I'm shipping for, what characters I have biases towards, which characters I like the more, or would like to see how how the story plays out. Regardless of that, if it goes against what I would kind of have a bias towards wanting, if it plays out well, I can think to myself, well, I still enjoyed it, so it still gets my thumbs up, and I still enjoyed it a lot. With dorA.thI, basically this kind of delinquent kid coming from kind of a broken home ends up well, he's not a real delinquent. People just assume he's a punk because he looks like a punk. So people all think he's tough, and they're scared of him because he's got these eyes that are just like meh. And it's kind of funny. So he could just like give someone the stink eye, and they're like, he's gonna come after us, but really he won't. Well, he might, but chances are he won't, because he's kind of a pushover. He has a crush on this one girl, and then like this other girl who from a different school, who's notorious for beating up everybody else, and being kind of called like the palm pot tiger. Yeah. Anyways, they kind of hit it off, but more as like a friendship, kind of like I'm using you to get closer to blah blah blah, and I'm forcing you, now you're my slave, and you're gonna help me, pick because she has a crush on his best friend, and he has a crush on her best friend. And I'm not gonna give out any spoilers, but they're forced to like work together, and then friendship blooms and all that. I found it to be a nice rom-com, and if there's any like genre of like drama that I can say I have experience in, only because when I used to be like really heavy into writing, I studied rom-coms. I wasn't very good at writing rom-coms, but I liked studying rom-coms because I enjoyed them mostly, because I like the idea of keeping it light and comedic, but still having that romance element, because a lot of people enjoy romance elements. But I don't like full-out dramatic romances. So, with that, dorA.thI easily gets the pass, and I might have to rank it, like, if I were to give it a score, I'd say it's like a 9 out of 10, maybe 8. Defrag maybe gets a 7. Most of these are pretty good. I chose good stuff. Is This a Zombie maybe gets like a 6, because I still enjoyed it. I think it was good, there were definitely some points where I was like, oh, this is fun, you know. I wouldn't say it's as strong as the others. So moving on. Oh, and that was watching that. I was like, oh man, I gotta pick up Toradora because I was doing some research and I was like, oh my gosh, they made a visual novel spinoff. All right, let's look that up. So hopefully I can play that as a let's play at some point soon. So I want to do that. Finally, Clannad. Oh boy. This was easily one of my favorites on the list. It was because of the Anime Summit podcast. I'm mentioning them a lot in this because that's where my biggest source of information is outside of Muka and, outside of Muka. But they were putting it down on their most rewatchable, but they're not sure how many times they can rewatch it because it's just so sad. And, like, it'll make you cry every single time. And it's like one of those things where it's going to break your balls, you know? Rip them out. So I watched it, and for that first season, there were some real sad moments, but it didn't really hit me. And then I think it was because I was binge watching when I was tired and kind of falling asleep, and I was in a weird mood. But being a father and going through not exactly parallel situations like the characters themselves, but very similar situations, like feelings of loneliness, anxiety, loss of everything, issues with like friends, family, and things falling apart, and a sense of hopelessness and alcoholism and gambling and all sorts of dark things. It like that second season hit me in my deepest, darkest fears, and that's I thought I'd be able to watch the whole thing without crying, but it was around like season 2, and you know what, if you've watched it, you know what happens in season 2, and I couldn't stop. I was just like, I can't, nah, damn it. And it was funny. It was interesting because I don't usually cry. I'm emotionally, I am a shattered patchwork tin man. I'm broken, but I'm strong. That's more poetic than it should be. But yes, I'm a shattered patchwork tin man. But, you know, like there's very few games that I'm not sure if a game has ever made me cry. And I'm not sure if there's very few that I can think of off the top of my head that has like elicited any kind of emotions from me. And movie wise, there's very few. They're few and far between. Where the Red Fern Grows when I was a kid. Not sure how well it holds up now because I haven't seen it in like over maybe 20 years. Yeah, I think it was about 20 years ago since the last time I saw Where the Red Fern Grows. But that one's sad. That one's ugh. If you can't deal with animals and dogs dying, don't watch it. If you think Old Yeller is sad, Where the Red Fern Grows tops it. Saving Private Ryan made me tear up. I think it was mostly just shock value. I think that was like in middle school. Then again, I was kind of a sap as a teen, so, you know, eh. And then I didn't, you know, I never really experienced the S hitting the fan to its fullest until I was older. But yeah, no, I thought it was really cool. And it's based off a visual novel, so I was thinking to myself, okay, maybe I gotta pick this up now, because it was kind of cool to see it all work out, because it had like different endings and stuff, and I don't want to like really. It kind of plays with an idea of parallel universes and like the multiverse and infinite possibilities, and it was kind of neat to see that actually play out well in a visual form of like an anime or a serial actually work. And I was like, okay, this might be one of my favorite animes of all time. It's pretty cool. Anyways, moving on. Fairy Tail. I need to figure out where I last left off. That's basically what it comes down to, because I was like, watched a whole bunch and then stopped for a long time, and I don't remember where I left off. And there's like 800 some episodes, so I'm just like, I don't know where I am. And I realized I'm actually a lot farther in it than I thought. Oh boy. Oh wow. The timer is hitting close to 2 hours of recording. So, yeah, this is a mini pod. This is a mini pod, everybody. This is a mini pod. let's go through this release list really fast. So on the Switch, we've got Pokken Tournament DX, which came out. The Octopath Traveler demo is out right now. Pokken Tournament is fun. It's good. Go check it out. If you like fighting games, and definitely 3D fighting games, and it's very action-based, go check it out. Skyrim is coming out on November 17th. Xenoblade Chronicles 2 Special Edition. Well, Xenoblade Chronicles 2 in general is coming out December 1st. That's a re-release because it came out on the Wii U and nobody bought it. So yeah, Muka's super excited about that. It looks really good. It looks beautiful. It's probably going to play far better on the Switch. Snipper Clips Plus is coming out on November 10th. If you liked Snipper Clips, you'll like Snipper Clips Plus because it's basically that and more. Sign Mora EX came out. I haven't played it yet, but it looked like, from everything I've seen and done my research on, it looks like a solid shmup. Side-scrolling shmup, so if you're into that, and I definitely am, go check it out. It may be a little bit too expensive for most people, but as a shmup, hardcore shmup fan, I think it's a decent price for what it actually is. Another one that actually looked pretty interesting, which comes out on October 10th, is this one called Touhou Kabuto 5 Burst Battle. It's a 3D 1v1 fighting game shmup hybrid. And I was like, say what? That sounds really interesting. I want to check this out. I need to do more research on it. No one's done any reviews on it, so it's kind of an obscure game, but Touhou Kabuto 5 Burst Battle is coming out on the Switch on October 10th. And it's apparently available on PS3 or PS4. So go check that out. I thought that was kind of interesting. It looks pretty cool. I don't know. I've played my fair small share of quote-unquote 3D shmups, so this could be really interesting. I don't know, kind of cool to think about. I'll have to look into it. Another thing that came out on the Switch was Golf Story. That it's a sports RPG, and that's going to sound stupid and it's going to sound weird, but if it's anything that I think it is, it's going to be amazing. If it's hopefully anything like tennis on the Game Boy Color, or no, yeah, on the Game Boy, it's going to be good. Because that was surprisingly a JRPG with sports elements, and instead of like actual fighting, you're playing sports and stuff, and it's actually a lot better than it sounds. Go look it up. Golf Story on the Switch. Mario Brothers, the arcade version, is finally out on the Switch eShop as well. I like Mario Brothers. I had to put this on the list. Go check it out. It's the old version of the arcade game. Is the price fair? I think it's okay. I think it should have been $5 at the most, but whatever. If I really want it, it makes for a really good co-op game. Another game that looked interesting was Brave Dungeon plus Dark Witch Story Combat, which is actually a 2-in-1 title at a discount bargain price of $7.99, I believe. And it looks really good. From the reviews that I've seen, it's gotten pretty good reviews. 7s out of 10s usually. But it seems kind of obscure. But it's a JRPG type game, so if you enjoy that, and I do, go check it out. One I'm really excited about is Fire Emblem Warriors, coming out on October 20th. It's a Warriors game with Fire Emblem characters. Do I really need to explain? It's going to be awesome. One that I'm super excited for is Doom in winter 2017 for obvious reasons. It's Doom. LA Noire comes out November 14th. Wolfenstein 2, The New Colossus, the newest Wolfenstein 2 game, if you like old school shoot 'em ups, the Wolfenstein series in general, that comes out in 2018 on all consoles. I think the Switch one might be just slightly delayed, but I'll have to pick that up, because from what I've heard about how it looks like and plays like on the Switch, it feels great, and I like the idea of playing a AAA game on the go. Definitely a new one. That's very appealing to me. Shovel Knight King of Cards comes out first quarter of 2018. It's the expansion pack to Shovel Knight. So if you like it, old school Metroidvania games or just Shovel Knight in general, keep an eye out for that. Comes out 2018. Tumblestone October 5th. I've heard a lot of good things about this, and then it just got shoved under the rug and nobody ever talks about it. It's a kind of an arcade battle puzzler where you shoot blocks up and match colors and all that kind of stuff. People were like raving and ranting about it and being like, this game's amazing, this game's so much fun. And I looked at it and I was like, I don't know. Look, I'm very even though I'm a huge arcade puzzle fan, I didn't feel like maybe it has as much depth as I would personally like. Because I do like Puzzle Fighter, Super Puzzle Fighter, and what was that called? Professor Pandemonium, Perplexing Puzzlers. It has the worst name. Heroes Never Lose, Professor Puzzlers Perplexing. Yeah, it's just one giant tongue twister. It's available. The game I'm talking about, Heroes Never Lose, Professor Puzzler's Perplexing Ploy, is available on Steam. If you like Super Puzzle Fighter, go check that out. That game is good. It's still in early access, but it is everything that makes an awesome arcade puzzler. Tumblestone, on the other hand, yeah, I can assume it's really fun to play and looks really good, but I don't know. Maybe I'm being a little bit too hard on it because I'm very hard on like puzzle games because I've played so many of them in my time that I get very critical. But I don't know. I need to actually play it to really give it a good judgment. But it is worth noting because it looks fun and people say it's really good. So Tumblestone, if you like puzzle games. Siberia comes out October 20th. That's that point-and-click adventure game that was available on PCs for a long time. Thimbleweed Park is another point-and-click adventure, which is now available on the eShop. And it came out on PS4, I believe, and maybe Xbox One. I want to say there's also a Steam release, probably. But it's got really good reviews. I haven't played it. It looks really good. And from everything that I've seen, it looks like it's fun. Definitely if you like point-and-click games. Another one, Rhyme, comes out this fall. So go keep an eye out for that if you're into that. Oxenfree, I've heard a lot of good things. Haven't seen anything of it. But everything that I've heard, Oxenfree is really good. Comes out October 6th. Lovers in a Dangerous Space Time. Haven't played it, but I heard it's one of the best couch co-op games ever. But I'll probably not pick it up because there is no online multiplayer. Because it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, you can play up to 1 to 4 players, but the developers of that title are on their high and mighty horse of saying, well, we want to create this type of experience of only couch co-op because you have the most fun in couch co-op. Yes, you do, but what if I don't have the people to play with? Why would I pick that up? I want online, and I don't think it'll ever come because their holier-than-thou attitude towards online multiplayer. So, yeah, I won't pick it up. If you're listening, that's why. Give me online, because I oftentimes play alone, and it's a handheld mostly for me, and why would I be, Have you looked at the price of Pro controllers? They're like $80. Why am I going to pick up 4 of those? Why would I do that? So, anyways, moving on. Spelunker Party comes out 10/19. For my real OG fans and followers of Sensei Pong would know I'm not a fan of Spelunker on the NES. I am a huge fan of Spelunky, but those are 2 different companies. One's Broderbund and the other's indie company I can't remember the name of. And Spelunker Party is made by somebody else. I don't remember who. I don't know. It could be good. It comes out October 19th. What is currently out now, though, another thing that looks really cool if you're into this kind of thing. I think it's a fighting game, mostly. Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2 is finally out. Looks cool. Not a huge Dragon Ball fan, so whatever. Licked Spear is out now. It's another indie title. And it seems kind of cool, but from what I heard, the only thing that's turning me off is the balance between price and length. And it seems like the kind of game that I would really enjoy, but be good at. So my experience just beating the game would be too short, and it doesn't seem like there's too much to it. So I'm just like, oh, I don't know. But check it out if you like old school, shooty games, kind of almost like an arena shooter, because your character basically, it's not a true arena shooter because your character can't move around. But what happens is that it's in a 2D, 16-bit pseudo 16-bit graphics, old school, retro inspired, whatever you want to call it. The character runs out and places himself and anchors himself and starts throwing spears at oncoming enemies. The idea is brilliant. It's just I've heard it's kind of short, so keep that in mind. Double Dragon 4 is out. I already talked about that, but I am kind of interested because I want to be able to do the co-op with my kids, and I think they'd enjoy that. So, and I do like Double Dragon, so I'll probably actually enjoy that. One interesting thing that came up in the Nintendo Direct recently, if you didn't actually hear for some reason because you don't listen to anybody else and you only get your news from me, and I don't know why you would do that, is Arena of Valor is coming out this holiday season. It's a free-to-play MOBA, and that's big news for a bunch of different reasons, but it's not really popular in the States. It's super popular in China, and I think South Korea, maybe Japan, but super popular in China. And it's good news for the Switch because it's like they're opening their doors to free-to-play MOBAs at this point, free-to-play games, and that sounds amazing. That sounds cool. They're finally catching up with the times, and this might actually start bringing in other big games, which would be really cool to see on the Switch. Another thing that's coming out October 5th is Stardew Valley. Should I explain what that is? Sure. It's a spiritual successor to the Harvest Moon series made by one guy, an indie developer, and it's gotten the most raving reviews ever. And it's one of those indie hits because it's really good, storyline wise and all that, play wise, all that. I haven't actually played it, believe it or not, even though being a huge Rune Factory and Harvest Moon fan myself, I've been holding off on it. It's been sitting in my library, but I haven't gotten around to it because I've been wanting to kind of do like a review or let's play or like a head off, be like, which is better, Harvest Moon, Rune Factory, Story of Seasons, Wild Season, which I also haven't played, but I've been wanting to like do like a head-on-head, and that was one of my ideas for a book club scenario. So anyways, yeah, Stardew Valley is finally coming out on Switch October 5th, and I like the idea of playing that on the go. That seems like a good game on the go. Harvest Moon games tend to do really well on handhelds, so Stardew Valley is really good. Finally, for the Switch, apparently there's this game, I haven't heard about it, never heard of it before, but it's apparently another Mario game. Super Mario Odyssey is coming out on October 27th. I'm not sure if anybody's covered information on this, but you should look it up if you're interested. You could probably find something on it. I don't know. It doesn't seem like a big title, but I'm interested. I'll probably pick it up. It's Mario. It's bound to be good. See what I did there? On the 3DS, we've got Cold Step Revolt finally in stores. Yokai Watch 2 is finally out. Mario Luigi Superstar Saga plus Bowser's Minions is coming out on October 6th. Layton's Mystery Journal Catch Real in the Millions, Millionaire's Conspiracy is coming out on the 6th as well, and Etrian Odyssey 5 Beyond the Myth 10 comes out on October 17th. The ones that I'm actually most interested in would be Layton's Mystery Journal, Mario Luigi, and Cold Step Revolt, and Etrian Odyssey 5. Kind of on Yokai Watch. I've never really gotten into the series. I like the anime, but whatever. That's only because my kids are really into it. But they all sound pretty good. Cold Step Revolt is basically like a TCG board game, hybrid game that you can play on the go, and you don't really get that a whole bunch on the DS. It was originally released on the PSP, so it piques my curiosity. It got good reviews. It looks good from everything that I've seen and done my research on, and it really piques my curiosity. So I might have to pick that up at some point. It sounds really cool. I want to see a discounted Switch release, honestly. That's what I want to see, but it's not going to happen. Mario Luigi Superstar Saga is a HD remake, but plus a whole new storyline and extra content and stuff where it follows the storyline of Bowser's Minions. So that looks really cool. And I like the Mario Luigi RPGs. They're fun. Layton's Mystery Journal, it's a Layton game. It's probably going to be really fun. I'm probably going to like it. I like mysteries. I like puzzles. I like brain teasers. That's all what Layton's about. Etrian Odyssey 5 is a old school JRPG roguelike. It's bound to be good. On PC now, finally. Cuphead is finally released. Man, I need to pick that up. It's like my most anticipated game of the year, but I just haven't been able to pick it up because I've been trying to like budget myself on different things because the past couple paychecks have been kind of small because of hours and all that. So it hurts me. It really hurts me. I'm like trying to like figure out, okay, well, what do I want to get? What do I want to do? This. Too many things. And unfortunately, Super Mario Odyssey takes precedence over Cuphead. Divinity Original Sin 2 released. I heard that's really good. A great CRPG kind of thing with like open-ended CRPG. So I'm really into CRPGs. You should go check it out. Everything that I've looked into it, everything that I know about it, it actually seems like a really solid title. SteamWorld Dig 2 is basically a Metroidvania game. It's out on PC. And I think it's on Switch also. Which probably means it's out on Xbox One and PS4. SteamWorld Dig is supposed to be one of those like new Metroidvania games that if you like Metroidvania games, it's really, really, really freaking good. And it's not as, confusing and has a better entry level for like non-Metroidvania fans. So if you haven't played any Metroidvania games before in the past, you should probably pick that up as well. Another game that came out on the PC was Total War Warhammer 2. If you like the Warhammer series and all that kind of stuff, the Warhammer universe, and like quote-unquote grand strategy, but more RTS stuff, it depends on how you play, I suppose, but Total War games are really good. I love the Total War series. With the whole fantasy thing, I heard the Warhammer 2 has gotten really good with all the updates, so go check that out. Project Cars 2 is finally released if you're into racing games. I am, so I might have to look into that. I probably won't get it, but another RTS game that I heard was really, really good was Tooth and Tail. It's kind of like what would happen if Redwall went berserk, so go check that out. A Hat in Time releases on the 5th of October on PC and Xbox One. It's from everything that I've heard, it's a 3D and seen, it's basically a 3D platformer of like yesteryear, but really, really fun. Got some fun mechanics, great stuff. If you weren't like completely satisfied with Yooka-Laylee but still want a 3D platformer, you'll probably enjoy Hat in Time a lot more. From everything that I've heard, everything that I've seen, it actually looks really solid and something that I would even enjoy. I'm not even that really big on 3D platformers. I do enjoy them, but they have to be like stellar for me to like truly, really dig my teeth into. And finally, biggest game of the year, the one that needs to be hyped up and everyone's talking about, and a huge game that is probably going to win all the awards at the end of this year, is Bubsy, the Woolly Strike Back, coming out on PS4, Steam, and GOG. See what I did there? Yeah, I'm actually excited about this one. You can hate me for this, but I've been waiting for a Bubsy game for way too long. Because the Jaguar one was really good, but everybody forgets about that. Why? Well, I know why. No one has a Jaguar. No one's played the Jaguar. Very few people have played the Jaguar. Not even like hardcore Atari fans have played. Most of them have played the Jaguar. But Bubsy Fractured Furry Tales was one of the solid games on the Jaguar, and it was also a Jaguar exclusive. So if you're a Jaguar collector, I'd throw that in. Yeah. Did I talk about Tempest 4000 last time? Yeah, Tempest is an easy pickup if you're a Jaguar collector, and then Bubsy Fractured Furry Tales. That was the other one. I would say is recommended, but I wouldn't necessarily recommend it because it is Bubsy, and Bubsy's a hard game to play. And that's about it with the release list. Hooah! Where am I at time? Wow, that still took forever, even though I was going like a mile a minute. Alright, I hope that wasn't too annoying, but I gotta go. So, fun fact of the day. One of the voice actresses, I discovered this recently, and it was a bit disturbing and broke my childhood. But one of the voice actresses that did Jessie on Pokemon was in this. Let's look it up. I don't remember what it was called. It's a ridiculous name. Definitely not kid friendly. Yeah, you go down her go on IMDb and look up one of the actresses on Jessie. I'll let you figure this out on your own. But yeah, this movie called Big Boobs Buster from 1990. I was like, what the balls? Yep, there you go. And thank you for letting me break your childhood. Anywho, with that, if you'd like to know where you can find me on YouTube at www.youtube.com/MrSenseiPong, on Twitter at Sensei_Pong, on Facebook at Facebook.com/brainfarting, at Facebook.com/SenseiPong, at SenseiPong, or I also have a link in the description below. I don't remember exactly what the address exactly was, but it's my Steam curator page that I almost never touch. It's spot picks, Sensei Pong's old-timey picks. So yeah, if you want me to recommend some like old school retro inspired games that are actually good, not just like, this is a cash in, because that's the other thing I get real critical on, like old school inspired games, because a lot of indie developers, not the good ones, just do that as a cash grab, playing towards nostalgia, and I don't like being pandered to, so I'm very picky about that. Unless it's really good, it can be simple, but as long as it's really good, I'll give you the pass. And if it's really, really good, I'll be like, oh my gosh, this game is amazing, go pick it up, If you're looking for a shmup, if you're looking for a platformer, if you're looking for like an arcade-inspired thingy that's like sort of like Donkey Kong, that kind of stuff. If it's actually done really, really well, go pick it up. That's what the spot picks are for. So if you're into that, go check that out as well. Anywho, and that's about it. I still don't have a good sign out. No one gives me good recommendations. So if you're still listening, God bless you. Thank you for sticking with me on this 2-hour mini pod. I chose a mini pod because I didn't have the time to record. Recommend me a good sign out. In the meantime, my sign out's gonna be keep on gaming, sort of, maybe. Pick up a game you don't know. Yeah, there you go. I like that. Branch out. Explore the world. Find that diamond in the rough. The flower in a poo pile. Go find your flower in a poo pile. Yeah, I like that. And until next time, SENSEI Pong signing out.